An Arkansas woman is gaining international attention for the way she fired back at a bully.
And McGovern also posted her story to Facebook. It has since gone viral, and she says already people say they will be more conscious of handicapped drivers.
Next guest faces adversity daily with a medical condition that outsiders just can't see. So you posted a picture of that experience with the faker, and it went viral, to say the least.
It did. I wasn't expecting such a huge response from it, especially when I had people from all over the world contacting me.
And, I think that part of what's good about this is that awareness that just because you can't see something doesn't mean someone isn't suffering with something either emotional, psychological, or in this case, physical.
I got in my car and I saw an envelope that had been ripped.
A few weeks ago, college student Julie McGovern found this note left in her car. It was a small piece of paper with the word faker.
McGovern says someone left this note on her car, calling her a faker for using a handicap placard and appearing to be healthy.
In fact, a local woman who uses a handicap tag on her car became a target after someone thought she was faking it. They left a nasty note for the woman. Fox 16 Shannon Miller spoke with her today, and I guess, Shannon, she's clearly upset by this, right?
Yeah, understandably so.
And so is it fair to say that every time you stand up, you're at risk for fainting and passing out and lightheadedness? So really every venture outside of home is truly that, an adventure.
Yes, and there's some times where I stand up and I may not pass out, but I can't see anything, and I'll just keep walking, knowing that eventually my sight will come back.
Diagnosed with a severe syndrome in 2008, she waited until last year to get a handicap parking tag, mainly because she didn't want people to judge her. But that fear became a reality after someone recently left a note on her car.
The Little Rock resident took to Facebook to respond. She wrote, "I knew something was wrong when I could no longer walk to my mailbox without being short of breath and having to sit down for several minutes before I'd made my way back to my house.
Anything that is controlled automatically, like blood pressure, breathing, heart rate, digestion, mine doesn't really work very well."
McGovern goes on to explain she was eventually diagnosed with postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, or POTS.
McGovern suffers from postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome.
For people who may not have heard of it, basically what happens is you take a person who may be sitting or maybe lying down, and as soon as you stand up, instead of the blood flow going all over the body, especially to the head, which is a normal circulatory response, we get a pooling of a lot of the blood in the veins, in our pelvis, in our legs. And what that does is it drops the blood pressure, makes the heart have to beat much faster, much harder. So it's what we call an autonomic condition, but you can't see it.
Every part inside her body could be compromised within minutes.
When I wake up in the morning, I can't just pop out of bed, because if I do, the blood will fall to my feet and I will pass out.
While the message left McGovern upset, she's now using it to spread her own.
McGovern wrote that being a young person with an invisible chronic illness is very difficult. She writes, "People think I look fine, so I'm not sick. It isn't that I'm looking for sympathy, but respect and compassion. I'm unable to keep up with my friends, and my pride often keeps me from asking for help."
And of course, she was really shaken up by all this, but turning that message into a positive one in order to help prevent this from happening to anyone else. Well, I guess it is interesting for all of us to hear that message, because I think a lot of people will see people park in a handicapped spot and get out and they look perfectly fine, but that's not always the case. She says really kind of take a closer look, and if you feel like it, ask questions about it, because usually they're willing to say, yeah, this is what I'm dealing with, this is what I'm going through. And even with her, she said sometimes she can get winded just walking from the car to a shop, so she has to take breaks. So just kind of take a closer look.
It's like the saying, don't judge a book by its cover.
Well, that's a good thing, and she's making us all think.
And really, what we need to remember from all of this, it's that invisible illnesses occur all around us.
She could no longer remain silent. She writes, "This person doesn't know me or my struggles. They don't know what this illness has taken from me."
It is okay if you fall down and lose your spark. Just make sure when you get back up, you rise as the whole damn fire. 15 years ago on September 18th, I was officially diagnosed with dysautonomia, POTS. And so began a new chapter in my life and a journey that introduced me to things I never wanted to feel, moments I wouldn't change for the world, and friendships that I couldn't imagine my life without. Life was different when I got sick. but it was still beautiful, and it was still good. And I might even argue that life was better. And not because things had changed around me, but because a deeper perspective on life blossomed within me, and life became a gift despite what I was given. 15 years ago, I sat in a doctor's office, hopeless at the idea of ever finding answers and exhausted by the unknown. How much further? How much longer? Yet, even still, a small flame of hope still burned inside my heart, and a hope that maybe this time I would be believed, I would be seen, I would be helped. Because for so long, I fought for my truth. When I was dismissed by doctors who simply turned me away, denying the possibility that something was wrong with my body, really wrong. Turned away by the very physician I trusted to care for me, to help me, to do no harm to me. And then one magical day, I met a doctor who changed my life with 3 simple words. I believe you. I will never forget that moment. And it was this special doctor who made the unknown known. I always knew in my heart that something was wrong, and hearing it out loud meant that finally others knew it too. Yes, I was sick, but I was free and I was safe. I had a choice that day, to walk in faith or live in fear, to see brokenness or find beauty, to give in or to give it all I've got, to be defined by this moment or refined by Christ, to respond with the grace of an adult or the grief of a child, and to trust the process or become much sicker than I was by the disease of anger and bitterness, which is the worst kind of sickness. Bitterness destroys more lives than diseases ever could. But most importantly, I had to choose whether or not to obey and trust in God's plan for my life, even though I didn't understand His will or my purpose. I do not look upon this day in grief and heartache, but instead with gratitude for the friendships I've made with others who are also sick, the perspective I gained about the important things in life, and the understanding of how important it is sometimes just to stop and be still and soak up the beauty around me. I learned the power of vulnerability, the ability to be empathetic when I see others struggling, because I too know what that is like. The thankfulness of good doctors and good people, and most importantly, the necessary but joyful reliance on Christ, truly seeking faith in my fears, peace in my pain, trust in my trembling, contentment in my sickness, and hope in my healing here on earth, if that is the Lord's will for me. And if it isn't, I am thankful for the blessing of experiencing so much beauty in the broken. 15 years ago, I found the answers I was searching for, and 15 years later, here I am, knowing that there is still so much beauty in life left to discover and obstacles to overcome. Is it easy being sick? Absolutely not. But hardship is a part of life. And the good news is that we get to choose who we become, not despite it, but because of it. Will you flourish in the shadows even though there is no sun? Will you be strengthened in the sun even though there is no shade? Will you continue climbing your tall mountain even though there is no rest? I believe that we are not victims of circumstance. And even when there is no sun, even when there is no shade, and even when there is no rest, we all have within us the choice to continue or to crumble. It is in these difficult moments that I pray you will have the heart of a wildflower A wildflower is strong enough to rise again after being trampled upon, tough enough to weather the worst of the summer storms, and able to grow and flourish even in the most broken places.